Hey there, friends. Tired of managing symptoms and struggling for answers? This holistic podcast guides you beyond one-size-fits-all advice to uncover root cause health solutions. I'm Holly Jean Mullen, your functional nutritional therapist host. Drawing from over a decade of clinical and personal experience, I'm here to help you overcome chronic issues like thyroid problems, autoimmune conditions, hormone imbalances, inflammation, weight loss resistance, the list goes on. This isn't generic advice. It's a comprehensive, personalized plan covering nutrition, mindset, and environment. Tune in for practical education, expert guests, real stories, and coaching to help identify what's keeping you stuck. It's time to understand your unique needs and tap into your God-given ability to heal by honoring nature's wisdom. Your transformation starts here. Let's go. Hello, welcome back to Real Health Transformations. This podcast episode is going to be a little bit different. I'm going to start with a story. So 4 nights ago, I had a dream so vivid and unsettling that it left me just shaken to my core, I guess is a good way to describe it. In this dream, something catastrophic was happening, and I knew just in my heart with certainty that there was no escape. And I was with my kids, and we were facing what I believed would be our final moments together. Like, I was like, we're going to die. The weight of that realization was overwhelming, and it stuck with me as I am still in the dream here. As I was like instinctively just trying to search for a way out, just knowing that one did not exist, my focus shifted to my children. And I felt this intense, unyielding need to be strong. I wanted to be just a feeling of love and safety for them. And I wanted their last memories to not be filled with fear, but I wanted them to feel warmth and reassurance and the kind of safety that really only comes from being held by a mom or a dad, you know, that comfort. And I just needed them. I remember just feeling like I needed them to feel safe, even in that moment when safety was not really an option. And this dream brought a flood of emotions that, like I said, just stayed with me after I woke up. And here it is like 4 days later, and I am still just thinking of the feelings of that dream. Like, I know it was just a dream, but it was more than a nightmare. It was this reminder of this responsibility that we carry to not just protect, but to instill peace and courage in our children. Like, parenting's a hard job, man. It reinforced for me that being healthy isn't just about physical wellness. It's about mental and spiritual strength. And it's about being prepared for the unknown and being so rooted in love that even in times of stress and dark moments, that we are able to guide others and those that we love with just calmness and reassurance. And this dream reminded me why it's so important to be strong in our minds and in our spirits, because life is unpredictable and it's fragile and it demands that we be ready. And it's not just for ourselves, but for those who look to us for comfort and stability. And in moments of crisis, it's that strength, that inner strength in our hearts and that depth of our peace that really mattered the most. And this nightmare was a wake-up call for me. It just reminded me how important it is to stay strong mentally and spiritually. It really it made me think of the election, because like I said, this was 4 nights ago. We just had the election this week, and it's been making me think about who we elect into office directly impacts our health and our body autonomy. Like looking at the two sides, the sides pitted against each other, both sides very strongly feel that if the other one were to win, then that is going to affect their safety. So that's how this all kind of like ties together. And what it got me thinking, because there are people that have real fears around who is in charge in our country, because who we elect into office directly impacts our health and our body autonomy. Policies, regulatory agencies are shaped by those who are in power and influence our lives and the choices that we are permitted to make for our own well-being. And as we are in this election season, yes, I know the votes are in. I honestly don't feel confident in it even staying. Like I'll get to more of that. But what is clear right now is that our future demands more than just political awareness. It requires healthy bodies, healthy minds. It requires that we are ready to navigate whatever comes our way, no matter who is in office. And that's true now for this election. It's true for future elections. It's been true for elections past. And I want to ask you a question. Are you bold enough or brave enough to stand for what you believe? Do you have convictions that you will not compromise on? In my last show with Leah, after she took a break and I was going solo for a little while, my tagline for the show was brave, or well, actually, no. The tagline was like having bold conversations about things that matter. But before then, like I always used to have this tagline that I would use, which inspired it for the show. But I would always say, let's be brave enough to have conversations that matter. This is kind of all coming full circle for me right now. When I look around, I see a troubling reality to me. I see generations growing up without absolute moral truths. Like right and wrong have become subjective. They are shaped by personal circumstances and desires. There's no true north here. Like anything goes. And this mindset leaves our society without foundation. And it's this mindset that leads us to a society where everything is subject to feelings and not facts. And this mindset is leading to an unsafe, an unhealthy, and a compromised world. And without wavering convictions, we are drifting further from the truth. We're drifting further from morality and closer to complete and total acceptance and honestly just displays of debauchery, straight up debauchery. And conviction is more than just a belief. It's a truth that you hold firm. It is like a guiding principle that you stand by no matter the cost. And when convictions waver, so does character. What beliefs do you hold that you refuse to compromise on? Would you stand by them even when threatened, even when pressured, or offered comfort and security in exchange? This is where my personal story of conviction sort of begins, is in this realm. My husband and I were both born and raised in California, but as years passed and we became parents, we really struggled with the legislation and the policies that were being enforced. And at first, I fought against them. I traveled to the Capitol, I met with legislators, gathered signatures for petitions. That's what I believed that was the thing to do. If you don't agree with something, do something about it. If you're not changing it, you're choosing it, right? But raising awareness, it came at a price for me. And it was a steep price. I was shunned, shamed, ridiculed, and cut out of some social circles. I have stood on the steps of the Capitol building in Sacramento, right next to Robert Kennedy Jr., posing for photos when just hours before I watched Capitol workers and legislators spit on children and tell them, I hope you die. There's more, but I watched mothers and grandmothers get arrested simply for showing up and standing up for these kids and their human rights, their God-given human rights. And eventually, for us to stay in California would mean complying and compromising our beliefs. And for years, we made sacrifices, tremendous sacrifices, working around the impacts of laws that conflicted with our values. And it was not easy. I will tell you that. It cost us financially, cost us professionally, socially, but it eventually led to us making the hardest choice, and that was to leave that home that we'd only known by the beach in a state that we absolutely loved, where everything we've ever known is there. And we moved to a state where we knew no one, had no jobs, had no plan. We only knew that we could not trade our convictions for comfort. And we didn't want our children to have to compromise either as they grew up, and also trade our family convictions for their comfort. And it was hard. Our relationships were severed and our hearts were broken. It was not an easy transition, but staying meant compromising our beliefs. And that just wasn't a price we wanted to pay. And we know the power of conviction, and we know the cost of standing by what you know is right. And we know that the strength that it takes to choose integrity over familiarity. And we know by doing. And I truly believe in freedom. And I believe in the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution and the principles in which the U.S. was founded, even if I am starting to question the deeper roots and the hidden agendas of that entire history of origin. History. It's a funny word, his story. His story. Whose story are we hearing? Whose story are we being taught? I did not vote for Trump. In fact, I didn't vote at all. And the first reason why I didn't vote is because, one, I'm not currently registered to vote. That actually matters here in Oklahoma. When we left California, I was so burnt out from politics that I just needed to step away from it all. I was constantly in a fight or flight mode, always on edge about the latest legislation or Big Brother overseeing. And it was exhausting. When we moved, I wanted to take a break. I wanted to clear my mind, maybe put my head in the sand a little bit and just enjoy the slow pace of change and of country life, and maybe get back to it when I felt ready. And the plan was to register to vote before this election rolled out. And it was logical to me. Like, it's the responsible thing to do, right? I've never not voted in a presidential election. It's my right. It's my freedom. It's what being American's all about. For a while, I thought that I would. I really had intentions, and I thought that I would. But when it came time to follow through and register before the cutoff deadline, I hesitated. And it wasn't about just like procrastination. That's not what it was. This was deeper. It was the more I thought about participating, the more I felt like I'd be stepping back into a game I no longer wanted to play. And to me, the political scene is just a giant circus. It's a well-orchestrated show designed to entertain and distract. And I do believe votes can make a difference at the local level. And when it comes to the bigger picture, it just feels like everything is scripted and that we're all just watching a play unfold on a stage. And I've always trusted my intuition. I think it's a gift I feel God has given me, this discernment. It's something that I lean heavily on. And this time, I just didn't feel that nudge in my heart telling me to go vote. I didn't feel compelled. Then instead, I had this I don't know if it was hesitation or just nonchalant, I didn't care, or it felt just more like nothing than a hesitation, but I just knew that I did not feel like I needed to go vote. And I just there was something holding me back. I don't know how to explain it. Now, I am not a Trumper. I do not like politicians. I don't trust them. Do I think he's a better candidate than Kamala? Wow, how do you say her name? Kamala? Yes, absolutely. Do I think he is the opposite wing of the same bird? Absolutely. I am not fooled into believing he is going to make America great again. I still just feel I'm waiting for the other shoe to drop. And I know many of you feel the same. And I hear so many people saying, well, he's the lesser of two evils. He's the better choice. And I get that viewpoint, but in my heart, just choosing between two evils still felt like choosing evil. And I just didn't want to participate in this system that forces that choice on me. So for now, I'm stepping back. I did not choose to play in this game, and I fully feel comfortable and trusting that that was the right decision for me. So whoever is in office, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter who is in office because the policies in place have been created and perpetuated for decades, and it has been made very clear that the government does not care about your health. And this is actually the meat of the episode here that I want to talk about. All that was my intro. The government does not care about your health. Politicians, they talk a lot about healthcare, access to healthcare reform, but they don't talk about preventing disease. What good is a conversation about lowering the cost of insulin when the government subsidizes junk food, which causes type 2 diabetes? They are not regulating chemicals that disrupt hormones. Insulin is a hormone. They're still pushing the food pyramid, which spikes blood sugar, leading to insulin resistance and metabolic syndrome. The regulations around food safety, environmental protections, pharmaceutical approvals, those all shape our health and our everyday choices. Policy decisions impact everything from the food on our grocery shelves to the air that we breathe. And some specific examples around these regulatory shifts and who's in office will just kind of paint this picture for you that it does not matter. In 1986, Ronald Reagan was president. Pharmaceutical companies producing vaccines were given full federal protection from lawsuits resulting from any vaccine injury or death. And this was all done through the Childhood Vaccine Act, and it was passed by Congress. After this law, vaccines became very profitable. And that is where we see all these new vaccines starting to be added to the schedule. That is why we went from just a handful to now, I don't even know what it is, 18, 21 or something that kids are required to get. I'm not even sure anymore because it's a long list. Another example, fluoride in the water, which has now come out as, hey, this isn't really too good for us. that the practice of water fluoridation began in the United States in 1945 under President Truman. And this was part of a public health initiative that was aimed at reducing dental cavities. That's where we get, oh, fluoride's so good for your teeth. It's not. It's a neurotoxin. But this decision was based on research and pilot studies that suggested adding fluoride to the drinking water could reduce tooth decay in the population. We now know that that was wrong and that it has other consequences that affect our brains. Lead paint and lead in gasoline. That's another example. Lead was added to gasoline in 1920 or in the 1920s sometimes. It was used in household paint because it improved paint durability, it improved fuel performance, but fast forward to 1970 sometime, and we're realizing, oh, you know what? Lead exposure has severe consequences with our health. It's causing developmental delays, neurological damage, and cardiovascular problems. So we realized this in the 70s, and then the government eventually phased it out in gas in the 90s, in 96. And lead-based paints were banned earlier than that in 78, but not before damage was already done. DDT, that's a fun example of the government not caring about or not putting our health first. And this was a pesticide used from the 40s to the 60s. It was endorsed by government agencies for its use for controlling insects and crops. I remember seeing videos of them like spraying DDT like all over with just kids there. But it's now known that it is a severe environmental and health problem. It is still in our soil. It does not go away. It's one of those forever chemicals. It has links to cancer and reproductive issues in both humans and wildlife. It was banned in 1972 after an author, Rachel Carson, she wrote a book called Silent Spring. And Silent Spring highlighted the dangers of this book. And that is what led the public to push for this to be removed. It was not the government saying, oh, this isn't so bad, let's take it away. It took a book and public outcry. Then there's this fracking and the Halliburton loophole in the Energy Policy Act that was in 2005 under President George Bush. His administration included a provision in fracking that exempted hydraulic fracturing from the Safe Drinking Water Act. And this exemption is now known as the Halliburton loophole because it meant that fracking operations didn't have to disclose the chemicals that they used in their processes. And this has led to concerns about potential groundwater contamination, air pollution from fracking operations, the impact of health on nearby communities, what it is doing to our earth and its effect on earthquakes and volcanoes. They are still doing research, but it has been shown that fracking activities increase the risk of respiratory issues and other health concerns. Despite these concerns, despite this loophole, when Obama was in office, he substantially increased or expanded the fracking practices. So far, we've talked about 4 different presidents that affect policy and our health. There is a history in this country of lies and cover-ups, and the only consequences are for those innocent people that are suffering from the damage. Tuskegee. This is a famous one that you've probably heard of. The Tuskegee syphilis study is one of the most famous examples of unethical government-led medical research But there have been other cases, other things. But Tuskegee is the one that a lot of people hear about, and it was conducted by the U.S. Public Health Service in collaboration with the Tuskegee Institute. And it involved the progression of untreated syphilis in 600 African American men. This took place in Alabama. There were 399 of whom had syphilis and 201 who did not. So the men were misled and told that they were receiving free health care for bad blood. But in reality, they were not given proper treatment even after penicillin was identified as an effective cure in the 40s. This study continued until 1972 when it was exposed by the press. The press exposed it. The government didn't say, oh, this is not a good idea. They were exposed. The study led to numerous deaths. It led to the spread of syphilis to partners. It led to syphilis being passed on to children. And the scandal had impacts on medical ethics. It was supposed to lead to stronger regulations and requirement for informed consent in research. I don't know why I find that a little bit sus. I don't know how far this informed consent in research has gone, but in the most recent COVID vaccine trials, I'm not sure exactly how much consent was, informed consent was given. If it's the same amount of informed consent that is given in other vaccines, then we have some problems. But this Tuskegee experiment took place from 1932 to 1972. We had several different administrations and presidents along those years who did nothing. The study began when Hoover was president, and then Roosevelt, he continued the study while he was in office, and then Truman, and then we had Eisenhower, Kennedy, Johnson, Nixon. In 1972 is finally when it was exposed during Nixon's presidency and then ended. It did not end until it was exposed. We had another syphilis experiment took place in Guatemala, or it was on Guatemalan health officials. Sorry, it was a U.S. researchers with the support of Guatemalan health officials. This was where they deliberately infected approximately 1,500 Guatemalan prisoners, soldiers, mental health patients with syphilis and other sexually transmitted diseases without their consent. Many were not treated adequately. There was completely unethical nature of this study, and it was only publicly acknowledged by the government in 2010 when Obama formally apologized to Guatemala. But that took place from 1946 to 1953, I believe. It's not good. There's radiation experiments. During the Cold War, the U.S. government and military conducted numerous radiation experiments to just study the effects of radiation exposure on humans. That sounds fun. Let's see what this does. This included secretly exposing individuals to radioactive substances without their knowledge or consent. It was done on vulnerable populations like prisoners, pregnant women, hospital patients, and one notable case involved injecting plutonium into patients without their knowledge. The outcomes were not good. It was not good. It was not good. That took place from the 40s to the 70s. So again, Roosevelt, Truman, Eisenhower, Kennedy, Johnson, Nixon, General Ford in the 70s, that's when some investigations and some fallout from these experiments were addressed in Ford's presidency. This one is still a little bit of a hot topic, and that's MK Ultra. You might have heard of it. It was a CIA program, a covert CIA program that was primarily focusing on the methods of mind control, behavior modification, interrogation techniques, and it involved using substances and psychological tactics, which included LSD, other hallucinogens, hypnosis and sensory deprivation, electroshock therapy, and other considered extreme techniques of alter mental states. It included psychological manipulation and behavioral conditioning. Many of the subjects in this were prisoners, military personnel, civilians. There was a time when LSD was dropped via air on the citizens of St. Louis. Many people suffered lasting psychological damage, and the program was officially stopped in 1973 following public outcry. Not, again, because the government learned a lesson and thought, this isn't a good idea. This event sparked significant public distrust in the government, their practices. Imagine that. Supposedly, it led to change in laws involving government experimentation. There may be laws. I don't know if I have a lot of faith that things have actually changed. Much of what the public knows about MKUltra comes from declassified documents and accounts that were revealed after the program was shut down. There are some theories and beliefs that the program never really shut down and is still in operation. And if you'd like to explore a rabbit hole, I'd start with light frequencies and their effect on the brain and mood, biological rhythms. You might find some interestingly concerning information about circadian rhythms and blue light's exposure and its impact on our sleep and our cognitive function, but also blue light and light frequencies for mind control and behavior modification. From there, you can make a timeline. It's a fun homework assignment. You can make a timeline from when incandescent or full spectrum light bulbs begin to phase out. Look at when the smartphone and the tablet boom started, when Chromebooks started becoming classroom staples, when mobile and gaming, social gaming, that era, when that kind of took off, and when the Department of Energy under the Biden administration implemented regulations that prohibit the sale of most incandescent bulbs. Spoiler alert, they all kind of track. Just make a timeline. Dig deeper. You can look into rates of chronic diseases and mental disorders in these timeframes. If you want to get nefarious or put on your tinfoil hat, cats. Sorry. Okay. If you want to get nefarious, imagine you are conducting a mind control and behavior. You guys, who wants my cat? Anybody, take my cat. Okay. Right in this part, I'm trying to set a scene here. I'm getting all deep. Okay, imagine that you're conducting a mind control and behavior modification experiment. Okay? You are performing this on unknowing citizens. What would you have observed during the pandemic? And what might you expect those ramifications to entail? Taking all of this, taking your timeline, taking the instructions we were given during the pandemic, and just put it all together. I'll let you marinate on that one. But back to MKUltra. That was done, when did that start? In the 50s to the 60s. Okay, so that was Truman, Eisenhower, Kennedy, Johnson. Again, there's more. I'm going to keep going. This will be my last one. There was a Willowbrook hepatitis study. This took place from the 50s to the 70s. And there was a Willowbrook State School in New York, and they conducted experiments in which children with intellectual disabilities were deliberately infected with hepatitis to study the disease and develop a vaccine. How horrific is that? Parents were often misled or coerced into enrolling their children by being told that acceptance into the institution required participation in the study. This one pisses me off because you know why? Because it sounds familiar. Are parents currently being misled or coerced into sending their kids to school? Think back to just a couple years ago. Was anyone misled or coerced into taking something to be able to have their job? This is not new, you guys. The outcome of this Willowbrook study say it raised major ethical concerns. But has anything been done about it? This was in the 50s. Has anything been I don't feel like things have changed. This study highlights the issue of using a vulnerable population without proper consent, without proper safeguards. I don't feel like things have much changed. Given my personal experience and given what I see going on, I don't feel like things have changed. I don't feel like the government or our policies or our practices of coercion, marketing, whatever you want to call it, I don't feel like those have changed. Forced sterilization. State governments in the United States had eugenics programs that included the forced sterilization of individuals who seemed unfit to reproduce. They often targeted minorities, those with disabilities, those coming from low-income families or low-income individuals. These programs were carried out under the guise of public health and improving societal genetics. Some states continued the practice into the 70s. It's rooted in discrimination. It has long-term impacts. If you have not looked into eugenics and those who are still in powerful positions and hold these beliefs, that is some research you need to do. Presidents, administrations who have been in office during forced sterilization programs. Roosevelt, back in 1901. Taft, Wilson, Coolidge, Hoover, another Roosevelt. We started with Teddy. We're on to Franklin. Truman, Eisenhower, Kennedy, Johnson, Nixon, Ford. I think the list goes on. But just given what I've shared, this is 14 presidents spanning over a century, 123 years. These presidents were in office during periods when these events took place, and either through their active support, their indirect allowance, or simply as part of ongoing government practices and research, this has spanned multiple administrations. These are just the things that we know. These are just the things that are known to the public. And I believe there is much that we do not know. Think about how I mentioned some of these only came to light because they got caught. What else have they not been caught in? These examples show that unethical medical and government practices have serious consequences for public trust, for our individual lives. They also confirm, to me, they highlight in neon signs, don't trust the government. It's absolutely important that we have stringent ethical guidelines, that we have transparency, that we have informed consent in all forms of research and public health initiatives. But I have zero faith that that would be carried out or followed, even with the policies in place. We have to take care of ourselves and our loved ones. We have to worry about ourselves and our family and not worry about which puppet is on stage as the current main character. They don't care about you. If this small collection of incidents doesn't convey to you this point, you might have cognitive dissonance or Stockholm syndrome. I don't know. One of those. It's hard to believe in patriotism and the belief that America's this great country, the greatest country ever, and also acknowledge the deep rabbit hole of corruption and just straight wickedness. I do think it's possible to hold different beliefs. We can have belief in freedom and in our God-given rights and in a love for our country and fellow man, and also recognize and call out the lies. We can choose to not tolerate this stuff. We can choose to not participate in the lie. And it all just goes back to your convictions. All right, I'm switching gears a little bit here. How do you stay healthy? How do you keep your family healthy while living in a world, in a system, and in a society that does not give I almost said a bad word, does not give a hoot about you or your health? Everything they say on stage, everything they say on TV, it's doublespeak. It's lies. The less dependent you are on the system, the safer and healthier you will be. Our physical health isn't just about strength, but it's also about having stamina and adaptability. If you can find exercises that you enjoy that also build core strength and your endurance and your flexibility, I would focus on those. Focus on preparing your body to handle the unexpected physical challenges that you might need to face. Like going back to my dream, when I'm there with my kids, like there was a point where I was going to need to hold them and run. If you don't like working out, just picture you're in a situation where you need to hold your babies and run. Like that is now the image I have when I think about exercise. It's not the vanity goals anymore. I don't want to look good in a bikini. That'd be nice. I would like to look good in a bikini, but that's not my driving force. I want to be able to hold my kids and run. Spiritual grounding, our resilience. And when we're in turbulent times, our spiritual well-being is going to serve as an anchor. And we need to take time to ground ourselves in our faith and our values and our purpose. And if you have spiritual practices like prayer or meditation, that's going to offer comfort and clarity when you're facing a crisis. I feel like now more than ever, we need to prioritize unity. Unity, and not to be confused with New World Order ideology of inclusivity. That is not what I'm saying. That is not the same. But we need to be united. We need to be conditioned to see our differences. Like, we've been conditioned to see our differences first, and we get caught up in those things that separate us. But I think in truth, we are more alike than we think. We are stronger when we come together, and it's within our families and our communities and the togetherness that where we can find common ground and we can move forward. And this division, it weakens us, it distracts us, it makes it easier for us to be influenced or controlled. I always think of that movie Ants, when they're taking on the grasshoppers. And once they realize that they are stronger together, when they outnumber the grasshoppers, they win. Basically, we're ants. We're ants is what I'm saying right now. And it's about time we turn away from the narratives that are pushed on us, that push us apart, that keep us separated. There's no secret here that there are powerful influences that benefit from us keeping fighting amongst ourselves, that keep us divided. And whether that be media, politics, or other forces with their own agendas. And this constant noise of the us versus them mentality and the relentless push to pick sides, like, none of it serves us. We need to stop taking the bait. And when we focus on these labels or these lines that are drawn in the sand, we're missing the bigger picture. We share far more in common than not. So we need to start questioning, why are we being pitted against each other? Why? We need to choose bridges over barriers. We need to start building those bridges instead of building more barriers. We can't prepare for everything. No matter how diligent you are, I think life will always find a way to surprise us. If we just look at unexpected events that just destroy communities. I mean, I live in Oklahoma. Tornadoes are a fact of life. Sudden natural disasters like what we just saw in North Carolina. That was a prepared community, but they were not prepared for what happened. That was an unforeseen crisis, and things can shift overnight. Preparation is important, but we also need to build adaptability and resilience. We need to know that we can't plan for every possible outcome, but what we can do, what we can control, is our mindset, our relationships, our response to challenges. And sometimes the best preparation is simply just learning to be present and flexible and willing to face whatever comes with an open mind. An open mind when we hear facts that challenge our current beliefs. And I think our best defense against any of it is just becoming as healthy as possible. For getting our mental, our physical, our spiritual health as good as we can, as optimally as we can. That is going to be more important than hoarding a stockpile of water and toilet paper. The world moves fast, and I think it's easy to be swept up in the current without questioning where it's headed. But we need to ask questions and we need to pay attention. That is essential if we want to live intentionally and avoid being misled. Why are things happening the way they are? Who benefits from certain narratives? Why are we not being told truths? And what are we not being told? These questions help us stay aware. They help us think critically. And please, for the love of God, stop labeling every idea that doesn't fit into your box as conspiracy. dude, I'm to the point in life where I don't discount anything. Like, no wild theory is too wild in my book anymore. It doesn't mean that I like believe everything that I see or hear, but I'm not immediately discrediting a concept or a thought that goes against what I've been taught or what I've been told my entire life. I'm like, maybe that's an interesting theory. Perhaps. I don't immediately just go, you're crazy. I entertain the ideas now. Paying attention isn't just about noticing what's in front of you. It's about seeing beyond it, understanding the bigger context, connecting the dots. It's this kind of awareness that allows us to make better decisions and to better navigate life's uncertainties with confidence. And the thing is, the government has shown us time and time again that they don't have our best interests at heart. You might ask the logical next question. Why? Why is that? I think that's a deeper, more complex conversation, but at its core, we live in a broken world that's influenced by forces that don't prioritize the good of the people. Most of us, I genuinely believe, are decent, well-meaning people. And I even believe that of people that are in politics and in the media. I can't say the same for everyone in those positions. And whether it's because they're blinded by self-interest, manipulated by higher influences, or just unaware of the full consequences of their actions because they don't think about what they're doing, it doesn't matter. The result is the same. Decisions that harm more than they help. And lately, I keep coming back to this phrase, by their fruits you shall know them. That's from the Bible, but it replays on my mind. It's become my go-to test for discernment. Are their words and their actions aligned? Do they practice what they preach? It's a simple way to cut through the noise and figure out who's genuinely trying to make a difference and who's just playing a part, a role. And in a world that feels more confusing by the day, this has really never felt more important. So I think closing out the year and going into 2025, I don't know what January is going to look like. I really don't. But this is the advice that I am giving myself and what I am choosing to focus on. And so I will share with you some tips I feel is my best advice to staying healthy, being healthy, going into the future. And number one, we need to stop participating in things that steal our health and steal our energy. Our lives are full of hidden energy thieves, and it's from processed food to constant screen time. That's going to disrupt our natural rhythms. We need to take an honest look at our daily habits and pinpoint what is truly nourishing versus what is slowly depleting you. We need to say no to convenience that comes at the cost of our well-being. Cut back on the crap food. Excessive social media scrolling. Toxic relationships that steal your peace and your vitality. I focus on those habits, choose those habits that pour back into you instead of drain you. The other thing is love your neighbor, right? It sounds so simple. Building genuine connections with those around you, that's going to create a support system that strengthens everyone involved. Acts of kindness, shared experiences, mutual support. These things contribute to our emotional well-being and our resilience. And when you just choose kindness and understand that everyone is going through something we don't know about, it doesn't matter what they believe if it's different than you. We're all human and we can have love for each other. Now, this is what I am still working on this one. I'm not saying I'm perfect. I'm not saying these are the things that I'm like nailing every day, guys. These are things I'm working on. A simple smile, lending a helping hand, just being there for someone in need goes a long way. And it enhances our own sense of purpose and joy. I truly believe that we need to develop a relationship, if you have not, with Jesus, or deepen your walk with Jesus. It's still weird for me to say that because I have not always been a Jesus girl. I will say that. Like, this is definitely new to me, especially talking about it. Very new. But I feel like in times of uncertainty, we need to have a strong spiritual foundation. I said it earlier, like that's really our anchor. The deeper you can go, the more peace and discernment you'll have. And that's where I've really felt myself grow a lot in this area in these last couple of years. And our faith is what guides our choices. And whether it's how you treat your body or how you navigate the curveballs in life or how you uplift others, it's just this connection doesn't just heal spiritually, it transforms your outlook. It helps you live with grace and with purpose. The other things I think we need to do is start looking to nature, not the media, mimicking nature, not what we see in the media, eating real food, going back to the basics, fresh, unprocessed food as close to nature as we can get it. We need to build meals around things that are simple and nourishing and not stress so much about what they're doing to the food. No weapon formed against you shall prosper. I truly believe that if we eat as close to nature as we can with the mindset of thanksgiving for that food that's going to nourish us, then that's what it will do. Where the mind goes, the body follows. If you're thinking and being stressed about what you're eating, and if it's poisoning you or if it's tainted, because I do have a lot of clients who I talk to that have so much fear around food manipulation. Your body will believe what you tell it. If you believe you're eating poison, your body will treat it as such. So approach your food with thanksgiving for the nourishment you are receiving and not with fear. We need to prioritize our rest because our wellness isn't just about productivity. It's about knowing when to rest. We need to emulate the natural rhythms of the day. Soaking up natural light. The sun is a powerful healer. I think that's why we have been taught to fear it. We need to spend time outdoors. I think that's why we were told to stay indoors those couple years ago. Expose your body to the natural light. Allow your body to sync with the day's natural cycles. It's going to boost your mood. It's going to improve your sleep. It's going to enhance your nutrition, your metabolic health, your mitochondrial health. Water. We need water, guys. Hydration is fundamental, but your quality does matter. I opt for filtered water, not fluoride tap water. We need minerals in our water that nourish our body. If you want to go down another rabbit hole, because I haven't given you enough yet, look at what happens to water when you speak positively to it. Look at water crystals and what happens when you yell at water. And then remember that our bodies are mostly water. And then think about how important it is what your self-talk sounds like, how you speak to people. When you learn about the energetic properties of our words and you combine that with our biology and how much water is in our body, it could really help you shift in how you speak to yourself and how you speak to others. Practicing the art of feasting and fasting. Nature has cycles, and so should we. We need to have periods of fasting to give our body time to rest and detox and reset, while mindful feasting reminds us to enjoy life and to celebrate abundance and to have joy and to experience joy that comes from sharing food and meals with those we love. That it all fits, but we have to work on getting there. And I also think we just need to go against mainstream advice whenever necessary. I don't think all mainstream advice is rooted in evil, but I also don't think it is rooted in your best interest. We need to take a critical look at what's portrayed as safe and effective and think for ourselves, research deeply, which gets harder to do when information is controlled. This digital age makes record keeping difficult because at any time it can just be changed. At any time. We need to have discernment in our choices. But again, going back to looking at nature and not media, nature is going to hold so many answers for us. All right, this is a long episode. Let me close this out. As I wrap up today, just talking about conversation and convictions and staying healthy and doing what's best for you and your family, I want to leave you with this. Standing by your beliefs isn't always the easy path, but it is the path that defines who you are. And in a world where values can shift with the tide, staying grounded in your conviction is going to bring you clarity, resilience, purpose, and true health goes beyond just the physical. It's about nurturing the mind and the body and the spirit so you can show up for your family and live with integrity. Choosing what is best for you and your loved ones may mean making hard decisions. It may mean facing judgment or sacrificing comfort, but it also builds a legacy of strength and authenticity that is going to last far beyond the present moment. And true health is just that. We need to remember to take a stand for what you know is right, and not only shapes your life, but it sets an example for those watching, like your children. So staying firm, being strong, taking care of your well-being, because when you're honoring your convictions, you're going beyond just floundering and surviving. Living by your convictions is going to truly help you thrive. So thank you for joining me today. I am going to close us out in prayer. I would encourage you to stay and start that walk. But if it's not your thing, then I respect that as well. And so I will see you next time. Oh, Heavenly Father, we come before you with hearts humbled and open, seeking your guidance and strength as we navigate a world that often challenges our convictions. And Lord, we ask for your steadfast presence to be with us as we stand firm in the truth and seek to live lives that honor you and the values that you've instilled in us. We lift up our families and our loved ones, praying for health and protection in mind, body, and spirit, and help us to make choices that align with your will, choices that nurture not just our physical well-being, but our hearts and our souls, so that we can be equipped to care for those entrusted to us. Father, we pray for our nation. We ask for your hand of protection to cover us and for your wisdom to guide our leaders. May this nation turn back to you, seeking your truth and repenting for all the ways in which we have strayed. Bring a revival of faith and integrity, and help us as a people return to what is good and pure and righteous in your eyes. Help us to be voices of love and grace and unwavering conviction in a world that needs your light. May we not be swayed by fear or the temptation to compromise, but we're just rooted in the promises you have given us, and teach us to show compassion even as we stand strong. Lord, we ask that you give us courage to protect our hearts from weariness. Strengthen us to do what is best for ourselves and our families, even when that road looks long or difficult. I pray that you surround us with your peace and let your presence be a shield as we navigate uncertain times with faith and hope. We commit our ways to you, and we trust in your unfailing love. May your grace cover us, your wisdom guide us, and your mercy renew us. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. All right. Thank you. See you next time. Thanks for listening to Real Health Transformations. I appreciate you joining me. If you found value in what we covered today, I'd be grateful if you could leave a review on your podcast platform of choice. It really helps spread the word and just helps me get the show out to more people and lets more people find us. And if you'd like to submit a question for me to answer on a coaching episode or to apply to be a live guest on a coaching episode, check out the show notes on how to contact me for that. The show is for educational and entertainment purposes only and is not intended as medical advice. As always, please consult your trusted doctor or medical professional before making health and lifestyle changes. I'll catch you next time on Real Health Transformations.